Hi everyone, and thank you for joining this live Share to Buy webinar in partnership with Abri Homes. Today we'll be discussing shared ownership and showcasing some exciting new developments in the South and Southwest. I'm Nick Lee from Share to Buy, and today I'll be joined by Becky Glasser and hopefully Daniel Maskell from Abri Homes. Dan is having some technical issues joining us at the moment, so hopefully he will be with us any minute now. But in the meantime, myself and Becky can take you through the presentation. Just before I pass over to Becky to get started, just want to run through a little bit of quick housekeeping for the session. Firstly, the speakers are going to go through their presentations, and then we're going to have a 10 to 15 minute Q&A session. So for those of you that are on viewing the session via desktop, if you look to the right of the screen, there's a chat tool there, so please feel free to enter your questions into there, and we'll try and cover as many as we can by the end of the session. It's also worth keeping an eye on the right hand side, because I'll be sharing a Abri Homes guide to shared ownership document, which you can download, and also later in the session there'll be a link straight through to the Abri Homes website as well, so you can check out their properties. We are recording a session today, and we'll share it with you afterwards. So don't worry if you miss anything along the way. We'll make sure that you have access to the recording once the webinar has ended. And that is pretty much it for me for now. So I'll pass over to Becky, and we will all cross our fingers that Dan will join us soon shortly as well. Over to you, Becky.
Thank you, Nick. So as Nick said, I'm Becky. I work for Abri Homes, working in the new build sales team here. We're a large housing association, a registered provider of shared ownership homes, and we cover most of the south of England. Today we're going to be talking about shared ownership. So what is shared ownership? It's a scheme designed to assist those with a lower income or who are struggling to save a deposit to buy a property on the open market. And you can buy a share of your property and pay a low cost rent on the remaining share. Usually you'll only need a 5% deposit of the share you're buying, so you can step onto the housing ladder with a relatively small deposit compared to the open market. The scheme is open to first-time buyers and those looking to move up or down the property ladder, and there are affordability and eligibility criteria as well. Basic ones being your household income must be £80,000 or less, slightly more in the London areas, and you can't own a property elsewhere, including abroad. If you're selling a home, then you must be sold subject to contract before we can progress your application further. And in some areas, a local connection requirement is in place, but we'll always include this as part of our advertising. The way the process works, after you've expressed an interest in one of our homes, one of our sales executives will call you and guide you through the next steps. And the first one of those being to contact a financial advisor. We have a recommended panel which we'll give you the details of, and they will be doing an eligibility assessment. This is free of charge and simply determines what percentage share you could purchase, and you might find it's more than the minimum available. They would be looking for a debt to income ratio of 45% or lower, just to ensure that those payments are sustainable moving forwards as well. But following a successful assessment, we'll then complete the reservation agreement with you and make a formal offer of the property. The formal offer takes the property off the market for 7 days, and that gives you a chance to instruct your solicitor, get your mortgage application underway, and finalise your reservation by paying a reservation fee. The next steps then, we are selling our properties off plan, so your sales executive will then keep in touch with you on a regular basis just to give you build progress updates, expected completion dates, and we'll also try to tie together the solicitor updates and mortgage application updates for you, so it takes a little bit of the stress out and be a little bit less daunting for yourselves, hopefully. We look to exchange contracts within 6 weeks, and this may be before the property is actually build complete. So you'd likely be exchanging on notice, which is exactly what it says on the tin. You'd be exchanging contracts without a set completion date, and then once the property is build complete, Abri will serve notice to your solicitors and agree your completion date from there. In that timescale as well, we'll also be setting up your new home tour. So this is a time for us to meet at the property, and your sales executive will show you around, make sure everything's working as it should, and that you know how to look after the property once you've moved in. So we would ask for your first 15 minutes of attention just to go through all of that, and then get to the really exciting stuff of figuring out where your furniture is going to go, measuring everything up. On your completion date, your sales executive will meet you at the property. They'll be preparing the property, taking all of your meter readings, just so you can get on with just doing the move. We're also on hand to take any of those little cheesy photos for you that we like to pop on Instagram, and we do say do share those with us, because that's the part of the job that makes it joyful for us. So that is shared ownership in a nutshell, and hopefully I'm handing over to Dan now, who can talk to you a little bit more about the next steps.
Morning, thank you, Becky. Afternoon, even. Every presenter's worst nightmare, having the computer gremlins. So I'm here, which is good. So my name is Dan Maskell. I work for the post-sales team here at Abri. I'm the lead resales executive. So I've worked within Abri for the past 6 years and processed a variety of staircasing transactions, be that on our resales, or separately on post-sales staircasing after you have moved in. So have knowledge in the field and kind of here for any questions afterwards as well. So after you've moved in, what can you do? So we want you to make the most of your home once you've moved in. There are certain bits and pieces, however, that you'll just need our permission for. And these are classed into two categories: home improvements and repairs and maintenance. So the reason that we ask for these, firstly, it's written in the lease that if you are underdoing any major home improvements, you just need to notify us as the landlord. The second reason that we do it is for your benefit as the customer, so that any improvements you're making, any money you are spending on the property, you're not then charged again if you're looking to staircase, and I will jump into that in a little bit. So what we consider as a home improvement, there is a range of different pieces. We'll look at it on an individual basis because every lease is individual. However, if you are in any doubt, always contact us. We'll take a look at your lease, send you some guides, some information, and go from there. So as a rough kind of guide of what we'd consider as a home improvement, really older properties, stuff like installation of double glazed windows when they weren't there before, installation of a central heating system if there wasn't one there before. The main ones that we see with newer shared ownership properties, stuff like a new fitted kitchen, a new bathroom suite, they're going to be the real costly investments that you're going to be making in your property if you do want to make those. So like I say, those kind of bits and pieces are a major outlay and also a change of the property in some circumstances. So just let us know, but we'd consider those usually as a home improvement. Stuff like an extension or an addition of a porch to the front, they may be altering the external walls of the property. So again, that will be down to the lease, and we'll have a look at that on an individual basis. So I'm talking very rough today on kind of home improvements. It is always very individual. However, there are these kind of bits and pieces that ultimately you'll want to make to your property. Repairs and maintenance, that is stuff like redecoration, bits and pieces like that, new fencing, new patio, landscaping your garden, those kind of bits. We'd consider those more of a repair and maintenance. But like I say, it's not a definitive list, it's not a categoric list. We'll always look at it on an individual basis of what that list says. So what we're going to do, I mentioned earlier about taking into account the staircasing. So if you have made a home improvement and we've approved that, what would happen then when you look to buy further shares in the property, your valuer would give you two values, one as the property stands today and one disregarding the approved home improvements that you've made. So you can use them once on a staircasing. So what we don't want is for you to be charged to make those improvements to the house or to the home, to the flat, those kind of things, and then be charged again because they've added value to that property and you have to pay for that with the staircasing. So like I say, you can take them into account once, but this is why it's always crucial to let us know if you are planning any home improvements, or if you have done already, we can look to provide that kind of approval retrospectively if we can. So a little bit about home improvements, what you can do. Ultimately, what I'd always say, if in any doubt or any questions, always contact us. We'll take a look at it on an individual basis and let you know what we can and can't approve. So we're going to go into a little video next, just a little case study, and then I'll be back on the other side of that, and I'll talk a bit more about staircasing itself, what it is, and go from there.
Hi, I'm Kirsty. Welcome to my home that I bought with the shared ownership scheme through Abri. What I like about my Abri home is the large, spacey areas with lots of windows to bring the outside in. The best thing about the area and the community that I live in is the large open spaces with a beautiful field just over to the left-hand side of me and lovely country walks to the right. It's a really tight-knit community, and even before I'd moved in, I joined a Facebook group and was talking to people locally and finding out about Jubilee parties, summer fetes and things that we have on the green. And this property has given me the opportunity to have all of the things in my lifestyle that I wanted. It's really close to my work with just a 12-minute commute now rather than an hour, and I've got all the space that I need to entertain friends and family with a lovely garden for barbecues in the summer and a big enough second bedroom that they can crash over. Having green space and a garden was so critical to me when looking for a property. I always knew that I wanted to get a puppy, and I'm very much an outdoorsy person. I like to be out and about enjoying the fresh air. So yeah, it's given me the opportunity to get my own little puppy, and yeah, really fits into my lifestyle well. I found out about Woodgate through a friend of mine whose dad owns property on the development in phase 1. So I thought I'd have a little look and see if there was anything that was going to be affordable to me, and that's where I came across Abri. So I found out more about shared ownership through my partner, who is a mortgage broker. So that's how I first sort of started looking into the idea of it. When I came across this property in particular, I reached out to Abri, where Becky was able to assist me in answering all my further questions. I would absolutely recommend shared ownership to people I know. It's given me an opportunity to own a property that I never thought was possible. I found the process of buying my home with Abri really straightforward. From first communication, it's been really consistent. Lots of updates, lots of regular pictures and things of the development and how it's coming along, right down to moving in, tours of the home and checking in on me afterwards.
Okay, so really good case study there from Abri, and now, like I said, we're going to move just into a bit more about staircasing and how it works, how you do it, those kind of things. So the whole reason of staircasing, the whole reason of shared ownership, is to buy what you can when you can and staircase up over time with the ultimate goal of owning your property outright. The whole reason for shared ownership. You can buy more shares in your home whenever you like, and obviously the more shares you own, the less rent you pay. So really, where to start with this? So the first point of call is to get a rough idea of A, what you can afford to buy, and B, the rough value of your property. So what I'd always say is firstly start with a financial advisor. Speak to them about your current position. What a lot of people do when staircasing is either if they've come into some funds and are looking to pay those funds from their bank to buy further shares, or when they're looking to remortgage and do it at that time. So like I say, the first point, just speak to a financial advisor, check your current affordability and go from there. You're obviously going to want to know a rough idea of what your home is worth. And what I always tell people is to start by looking at websites such as Rightmove, Zoopla, and just seeing if you can find any similar properties to yours to give you a rough indication of what your property is worth. So if there is a similar one to you within a close kind of proximity, you can take that as a rough value. If you want a more definitive value before you instruct a RICS surveyor, what I'd say is you could always speak to an estate agent and just ask them to give you their opinion on the value. So you've got a rough idea of what you're going into, A, with a financial advisor, your affordability, and B, what your property's worth. The process of staircasing with us, you'll need a RICS valuation. So a RICS valuation is a chartered surveyor coming to the property, providing you with a report. Now, these reports traditionally always last for 3 months from the date that they're signed off. So want to make sure that you've done your homework before, because what you don't want to do is start that clock ticking on your valuation and that time expiring. They also cost anywhere from around £250. So what we don't want you to do is be out of pocket when you're not in a position to kind of go through those kind of things. You just want to make sure that you're taken care of and that you're ready to go. So if you're ready to go, get a valuation, speak to us. We'll get you an application form sent out. We can send you a guide as well. There's guides on the Abri Homes websites to staircasing. Send us that in, your application form and your RICS valuation report. We will confirm back to you in writing via kind of an offer letter what your home is valued at, what shares you've asked us that you want to buy. We'll confirm the value of those shares in writing, send that to you officially, and it's then for you to accept that. If you're happy to accept that, we will then instruct our solicitors on our side. You will instruct your solicitors on your side, so you will need a solicitor to act because they do all the legal bits with the land registry. Both solicitors will liaise with each other as part of the process. We will sign a document called a memorandum of staircasing. You will also countersign that document. That is the real kind of legal document that confirms the shares that you are buying. From there, once both copies of the memorandum of staircasing have been signed and the solicitors are happy that the conveyancing process has been completed, they will arrange a completion date and we will produce our completion statement calculated to that date, depending on how many shares you're buying, those kind of things. So that all goes through. But like I say, we're always here to help. You'll always have a dedicated officer to help you through. The same officer sees it from start to finish through that process. So we're always here to help. From there, like I say, the flow chart is there. There's guides on our websites if you do need any more, but you can always come through to us and speak to an officer if you've got any questions or anything like that, and I'll be more than happy to answer any questions at the end of this as well. So pop them through and be happy with that. But I'm going to hand over to Becky now, who again is just going to talk a bit more about Abri Homes and some of our developments.
Thank you, Dan. So as you can see from the map on the screen, we cover a vast geography across the south of England. We currently have 21 new build developments either coming soon or available to buy now. And we also have 120 resale properties on our website. We sell properties from 1-bed flats up to 4-bed houses. So there's something for everyone on there. So do go and have a look if you can. And I'll just showcase some of the developments we have got at the moment. So first up, we've got Longhedge Village. This is a 15-minute drive away from Salisbury, and we're currently selling 1- and 2-bedroom apartments here. Deposits are from as low as just under £4,000, and we do have a show home on site, so do get in touch if you want to arrange a visit there. The finished development will include a convenience store, which is already open, and a primary school will be included in one of the later phases, so we're building a really great community there. Next up, we have Sunning Hills Square near Ascot. So this is launching this week. This again is 1- and 2-bedroom apartments. They're a short walk to, they're half an hour walk to Ascot train station with direct lines to both London and Reading in under an hour. And then the local high street is just less than 10 minutes away and has all the amenities you'd expect from a high street. There is a local connection requirement to Windsor and Maidenhead for this development, and more information about that is on our website if that one was of interest. And then finally, I just wanted to talk about Shackleton Heights in Bristol. And so all of their homes here had energy efficient specification, which is really good to see coming through. And this turns out to be a very popular development, with all 12 shared ownership homes being reserved within 2 days of the launch. So unfortunately, that is all the shared ownership homes gone, but we do have some market sale properties coming up there, and we have lots more shared ownership properties in the nearby areas, which you can see from that map as well. yeah, I hope that gives you an idea of everything we've got available. If I hand back to Nick.
Thank you, Becky. Thank you, Dan. Glad that you could join us today. Nothing like a little bit of jeopardy to keep everybody on their toes. So now we're going to move over to the Q&A section of the webinar. We've received lots and lots of questions in the chat, so thank you very much. We've received a few questions before the session started as well, so we'll try and get through as many as we can. We've had over 100 and I think we've had about 115 people log on to the session live, so great that so many of you could join us this lunchtime. So Dan and Becky, if I could invite you back onto the screen, please, and if you wouldn't mind turning on your microphones as well, we'll get started with the Q&A aspect. So we'll start with a couple of questions about shared ownership and the actual buying process. So Becky, this is probably for you. The question, is there any specific eligibility criteria for shared ownership?
Yeah, so as we mentioned at the beginning, your household income has to be £80,000 or less, and you can't own another property elsewhere, either in the UK or abroad. And you might find with some developments as well, there is the local connection requirement, which is always on our advert as well.
Thank you very much. Just probably worth just saying as well that if any of the audience members are looking to buy in London, then the maximum income acceptable on that is 90,000 rather than 80,000. Next up, we've got a question which is shared ownership only available on new build homes?
I'm happy to jump in on that one, Nick. So yes, there used to be an old program called DISO where do it yourself shared ownership, and you could do that on pre-owned properties. There may be some very small schemes with individual providers where they offer that, but the majority of shared ownership is on new build properties.
Yeah, I think probably just again worth just saying that there's also resale properties, isn't there? So there's shared ownership properties that have been pre-owned, which come back on the market after that person who's owned it is ready to sell it. But yeah, shared ownership isn't available on any property. It's available on properties that have been specifically designated for shared ownership. Yeah. Next one, is there a cap on how many bedrooms I can purchase with the scheme?
Happy to jump in on that one. So from the short answer is no, but what you might find is if the development you're looking at is subject to a local connection and the prioritisation is by the local authority, when they're prioritising our applicants, they might apply their bedroom cap. It's purely because they want to see that affordable housing is being as fully utilised as possible. But by and large, no, there's not.
Okay, thank you. And one that we always get whenever we do these is, can I have pets in my property? I think the case study probably answered that question, but yeah, is there any specific rules that you have around pets?
Again, I'll jump in, Dan, if that's okay. The new shared ownership model lease does allow you to have pets in the property, but we do look at each application individually as well, because sometimes there might be sub elements to your contract that we need to take into account.
Yeah, Bill, thank you very much. I think probably notable that the case had a very small dog rather than a sort of horse or anything like that as a family pet. Next up is a couple of questions on the staircasing side of things. So Dan, this might be for you. Just a very sort of simple one, but do you have to staircase? Is it an obligation that you do have to staircase?
No, not at all. So you don't have to staircase. The only thing to just remember is over time you'll obviously have a lease on your property. So if you just stay as shared ownership, the new leases around 999 years. The more traditional, more recent leases were 125 years. Previous to that, they were 99 years. So there is no obligation to have to staircase. You can stay with the share that you own. However, depending on your lease length, just remember that obviously when you come to resell it or move on, those kind of things, or if you're planning to kind of stay there for that period of time, if you bought or resell, those kind of things, just always check your lease length remaining, but no obligation.
Thank you. And is there a limit to how many times you can staircase?
Again, no, you can go up in kind of minimum tranches. So most leases will be a minimum of 5%. So you can just keep buying 5%, 5%, 5%. Obviously, the new model leases are in the 1% staircasing, and there's separate guides and information for that kind of process. But no, you can do it as many times, no time limit in between, just whatever your circumstances allow.
Cool, thank you very much. And something that's been on the agenda for a lot of us working in the sector recently, what is 1% staircasing?
Yeah, so more the new model leases, like Becky said. So it's part of the Affordable Homes Programme, and you can staircase 1% each year with no administration fees or RICS surveyors needed. It just makes it easier for those leases, people on those leases, to staircase without the need for additional lending or mortgage fees.
Thank you very much. I'm going to move over to some of the questions that we've received live for this session, so bear with me while I sort of read off the screen at the same time. We've had a few questions asking about where Abri specifically have homes, and I know that, Becky, you covered some of that in the session. For those of you that are on your desktop, if you look to the right of your screen, there is a link to the Abri Homes website there, and you can see all of their properties that are available right now and coming soon on that website. We've also had a question from Anne, who said, apparently the Help to Buy website won't work after the 31st of the 3rd. Where do I look to find shared ownership properties? Well, as well as the Abri website, you can also look on the Share to Buy website, where we'll list thousands of shared ownership properties all over the country. So next up, we have a question from, let's have a look, for Marie. Is the process for buying a resale property very different to buying a new build property?
Not really in terms of the legal side of it. So with new builds, obviously Becky's a bit more of an expert. There is a bit more of a exchange and completion deadline, which is a bit sooner. With a resale property, it's a traditional resale like you would on the open market, just with that shared ownership bit kind of thrown in. So we advertise the properties. We have a nomination period from the seller to find a buyer. If we find a buyer in that time, we will nominate that buyer under the terms of the lease. We'll complete a briefing with them, which explains a bit more about shared ownership. And from that point, it then goes to the legal conveyancing process like any traditional sale on the open market. I suppose with a new build, you have the kind of the contract packs already produced and bits and pieces like that. But a resale will be just like a traditional sale and advertised in the same way as that. So yeah.
Thanks. Yeah, it's worth saying, isn't it, that with the new build properties, I think that often they have a sort of defects period where the buyer can go back to Abri or go back to the builder and get some repair work done if something's been missed while it's been while the buying process was going on. With resale, that doesn't tend to be the case because you're buying sort of as sold really with the resale properties. Question for Michelle. So, what if in a few years' time our wages go above 80,000 and we want a staircase? At that point, will we be over the wage threshold?
So my understanding, I'm not a financial expert in any way, so my understanding is that the 80k is for when you move in. I don't think if your wages go over 80k, you then have to be kicked out of the property and bits and pieces like that. So I think it's just that eligibility criteria to move into the property. And obviously, if your income is increasing over time and you are, say, looking to remortgage, or you've saved up that kind of pot that you want to invest in the property and buy further shares, you can do at that time.
Yeah, exactly.
Say as well, on first tranche sale, those eligibility criteria apply, but the whole point is it's an aspiration to home ownership. So we would expect you to be in a better financial position to then be able to staircase. So no, it wouldn't apply.
Thank you. Is it possible to buy a share with a large deposit, 30% or more upfront, and not have a mortgage?
Yeah, I'll take on that one. So we do have that quite often. We treat it as a cash purchase. As long as you've got enough to buy the minimum share available, then you can be treated as a cash buyer, and at which point you would just pay the rent share to us, and you wouldn't have obviously a mortgage repayment to add on to that as well. So that's perfectly doable, and we see that quite frequently.
Thank you. We often get this question, which is, we've had it a couple of times this afternoon, which is there a minimum income that's required to purchase shared ownership or to be eligible for shared ownership?
So that will depend on the property that you're looking at and how much it is. So the way the affordability assessment is worked, it's so it shouldn't be costing you more. They'll be looking at the debt to income ratio to be 45% or lower. So if you're above that 45%, we deem it as unaffordable and unsustainable, perhaps going forwards. But it is really specific to the property in the area that you're looking in as well.
Thank you. And another one that we often get is it permissible to rent out a spare bedroom?
So you can rent out the spare bedroom, but it has to be your main place of residence. You can't move out and live elsewhere and rent that property out. But absolutely, yeah, you can take on a lodger if you wanted to.
Yeah, probably just worth saying on that one as well is that while you can take a lodger, when you're actually buying the property, the income that you might receive from the lodger isn't taken into account when they're doing your financial assessment. That's only sort of taken into account once you purchase the property. Yep. Will the rent increase if the property value increases? It's from Jack.
So I'll pick on that one again. So the rent is reviewed each year in April. If it does increase, it's in line with RPI plus 0.5%. So it doesn't go in line with the property value. The only thing that does change with property value is if you're looking at the 1% staircasing or higher, obviously it would be based on the market value at that time, but the rent doesn't go in line with the property value. It's RPI plus 0.5%.
Thank you. Bit of a longer question here. How long would you say the process takes from when you find a home you're interested in, brand new or resale? And do you need a mortgage in principle in place before you find the property? I'm aware that would only last for 3 months, so unsure as to when to start the mortgage process.
So if I start from my end, and then I'm sure Dan will have something to add on to this. But we would expect if you found a property through us, we have a panel of advisors that we'd send you to have the affordability assessment done. Like I say, as I mentioned before, that's free of charge and just simply determines what percentage share you could go for. We would expect the whole sales process to take between 3 to 4 months as a maximum. Being new build from my end, that may change, and that's why you have a good relationship with your sales executive. We'll keep you updated if that does change. Remind me of my direction of this on this one, Nick. They were asking specifically.
Sorry. The next part of the question was, So does it last for over 3 months once you've had your decision in principle, and how long roughly does the whole process take? Yeah.
So what we do then is once you've gone through and had that formal offer of the new build property, that's the point at which to get your mortgage application underway, because we are marketing our properties in line with when we're expecting them to be ready to occupy. So hopefully we're not seeing those mortgage offers expire. And again, that might be different from Dan's end.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's always a good point of call, whether you're looking at new builds, resales, those kind of things, just to speak to a financial advisor at the start, just to get a bearing of what your affordability is, what kind of properties you can look at, those kind of things. With resales, very similar process. Once you apply for the property, we'll refer you to an independent financial advisor. They will conduct an affordability assessment based on that individual property's values, rental, service charges, kind of financials like that. From that point, so you don't need a decision in principle to apply for that. You just need to have an understanding of your affordability. The independent financial advisor will obviously clarify that based on your income, your outgoings, those kind of things, and let us know whether you fit each resale property. Like I mentioned, from the point that we get your assessment, you've viewed the property, we've nominated you as a purchaser under the terms of the lease. We conduct what we call like a little briefing process where we go through with you the information about shared ownership itself, about the purchase, about the finances on that purchase, those kind of bits. And then from the point that we sale agree as a resale, we are allowed 3 months to complete buy. So even if the current owner's RICS valuation report goes out of date in that time, it will be validated for a period of 3 months from the date that the sale was agreed. So that's a rough kind of estimate on that. If it does go longer than 3 months, the current owner can extend their RICS valuation report. However, it kind of goes out of everybody's hands because it goes back to the original surveyor to kind of validate that their original valuation is still in place. So if the market changes, goes up or down, obviously that valuation could change, and it's out of everybody's control then, which would then have a knock-on effect to the share values and those bits and pieces. That's why we always tell everybody, once that sale is agreed, we've just got to aim to get everything done within that 3 months, get you in that home from there.
Great, thank you very much. Lots of good information in there. So we're getting quite a few questions about specific financial circumstances. What I would say is that this isn't really the appropriate forum to deal with kind of personal financial questions. What we'd advise is to speak to an independent financial advisor or a mortgage broker. We have details about a mortgage broker on the Share to Buy website. Abri, I'm guessing you guys probably have some information about some brokers that you work with on your website as well. So if you do have a specific question, related to individual finances, we just say that you get in touch with somebody separate to this session, if possible. A few more questions. I have an annual wage, but it's boosted hugely by commissions. I work in sales, so is the commission included in the affordability when it's assessed?
I can jump in, Becky.
Yeah.
Oh, if you want to go. I think that the financial advisors do. I think what they, again, not financially trained or anything like that, but I think they look at it on a 50% basis. So I think they'll take your income and 50% of the overtime, but they'd be able to advise you kind of more on that. But that's my understanding of it.
Yeah, likewise. I think that they do take into account any bonuses or commission that you get. If it's irregular, then they take a bit of an assessment of how often you receive it and what the average it sort of tends to be. Question for Becky, which I think I probably know the answer for, but are there show homes for all developments?
There's not. So we generally only have show homes where we have quite a high number of homes to sell. Otherwise, generally, we're just getting people moved into the houses. So you'll find that some of them do and some of them don't.
Thank you. Can EU citizens apply? What immigration status is required? If you know the show on that one, I can probably take it.
Yeah, so as long as you've got your indefinite leave to remain and the paperwork to go with that, we can accept those applications.
Yeah, exactly. It comes down to really more the lender really and the mortgage broker to whether they assess you as being acceptable to lend to based on your immigration status really. So if they say it's okay, then generally speaking it should be okay with the housing provider as well. I've got a question here. I'm an Abri social tenant. Will that have any bearing on the application for shared ownership with you?
From a new build perspective, quite often it's based on first come, first serve, so we don't give priority to our own tenants. But if it's being prioritised by the local authority, then they may well take that into account. And I don't know if that would be the same criteria for resales.
Yeah, on a resale, all of ours are on a first come, first serve basis. It's the only and fairest way we can do it. It just stops us kind of saying, we think this person should get it over that person. We have no knowledge of the applicants where we could choose one over the other. So we just do it on a first come, first serve basis on a resale based on a successful viewing and a successful financial assessment. Just keeps it nice and fair to everybody.
Thank you. I think we'll probably make this the last question. So do you accept someone who has had shared ownership before with a different housing association?
Yep, we do. So as long as your property is sold subject to contract or already completed, then we can accept an application for you for a new build property. And I'm guessing that's the same for the resales team as well.
Yeah, exactly. We do get it a lot where people are sold subject to contract, like you say, with another HA. Absolutely fine. There's no rule with shared ownership that you can only just have one. You can move through providers. So yeah.
That's great. Thank you very much. Just one thing as well, just to mention about the staircasing stuff that you covered, Dan. We actually do have a staircasing calculator on Share to Buy website as well, which does include a tool for getting an indication of your property value. It's not, it's not an official evaluation, but it's just a quick tool that looks at again the same data, some of the same data that Dan was talking about, sales in other locations, size of property, etc. So if you are interested, then you can always have a look at the Share to Buy website as well. I've just popped up on the screen the links for the Abri website, and if you've got your right tab open as well, then you can see the direct link through to the Abri Home site as well. So it just remains for me to say thank you very much for everybody who has attended and all of the great questions. Massive thanks to Dan and Becky for fielding all of those questions and all of the great information that you shared today. We will be making a recording of the session available shortly after, so we'll send that out to you via email, and we'll also be posting on the Share to Buy website and across our social channels as well. So keep an eye out on our Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram pages. And that's it, really. That's it for today. So thanks again for everybody who joined us, and have a great rest of the day. Thank you all.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Bye.